Welcome back to Steam-Powered Scoundrels, a Malifaux podcast. Episode 82, Mom Said It's My Turn with the Sword. One of the great excitements I have about Monica coming to Good Things Happen is we finally get to hang out in Meat Space. One of the concerns I have is nothing else is going to happen, because we're just going to do this forever.
We're gonna have the Roman plays Rezzers and Monica plays Arcanist, like, first match, and you'll come over and be like, what turn is it? And we're like, we haven't deployed yet.
Yeah. I love it. Speaking of Good Things Happen, welcome back to Friday night. Fuck, I'm tired. Steam-Powered Scoundrels.
It's Sunday, Doug.
When did that happen?
Is fake.
It's June. It's Pride Month. You know what that means?
Damn it. What? What does that mean?
It's a meme. It's a badly drawn. It's a meme. It's a badly drawn picture of Walter White saying to Jesse, "It's Pride Month. You know what that means." And the next panel is badly drawn Jesse going, "You want me to make gay meth? What?" And Walter just walks away. Which a lot of people have redrawn for a bunch of, other fandom characters. So please imagine, like, Franco Marlowe with the guild masters in front of him being like, "It's Pride Month, you know what that means," and then walking away.
Amazing.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so yeah, this is a podcast. Monica's here.
I'm here.
Say hi, Monica.
Hi, guys.
Along with Roman and Doug, but Monica's the star of the show because she really wants to talk about 4th edition.
I do.
And I have a podcast platform, so we're combining our powers to talk about 4th edition.
Do you have a default intro that you do? Like,
this is it.
That's it. Oh, okay.
bad cold opens is our MO.
Okay, cool. I was hoping to provide a good...
I am not reading out the script. The best I can do is not screw up my introduction of, welcome back to Steam-Powered Scoundrels.
Okay.
A Malifaux podcast.
Fantastic.
I'm your host, Douglas Scoundrels, and with me today are two guests. One who's never going away. Roman, say hi.
Hi, it's me.
And someone... Have you ever been on the... When was the last time you've been on? Long time.
It's been a long time, and then the last time
sure
I was
it was
just talking about fictional people having sex.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you've only been on the
MPA ones.
Port Authority.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I'm gonna talk about something else this time. My other area of expertise.
Hey.
Two areas of expertise.
Somehow fold
game design and making up fictional lesbians.
No, you're reading the subtext out loud on the fictional lesbians for everyone else to find out.
I'm engaging thoroughly in the second definition of the Bechdel test. You didn't know Alison Bechdel, the cartoonist who do the 90s cartoon Dykes to Watch Out For, who, like, invented the whole thing, two women having a conversation that's not about a man thing, and then the whole internet forgot that the second half of that is so that I can imagine them as lesbians. That is the whole Bechdel test, actually.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's not just hashtag feminism. It's I want to have two characters in this piece of media and have a conversation that's not about a man specifically, so that I can imagine them as lesbians. And so yeah, hey, Malifaux passes the Bechdel test. I'm very busy imagining lots of these people as lesbians. But today I'm going to talk about game design.
Very busy.
so
We're
busy.
talking about game design.
Today I'm going to talk about game design instead, because I have always thought Malifaux has outstanding game design, and 4th edition has consistently impressed me throughout the beta. Obviously it's a beta, so we're like working the kinks out. No game is ever perfect, but so far we're really good. And so I guess I want to kind of kick off the discussion by talking about every version of Malifaux is just a masterclass in using mechanical design to convey a character. You can hand someone their, like, a master's card, and they know exactly who they are without having read a sentence of the lore. In fact, I did this to... I was talking to another friend of mine who has no exposure to it, and I was talking about this subject in particular. Like, Malifaux is a masterclass in simply using mechanical text to tell you who a character is. And she asked me, like, oh, how do you mean? Do you have a good example? And I sent her Tarot's card, and I said, just read the text, don't worry about the numbers, don't worry about the symbols. Those mean things too. Those are also part of the characterization, but you don't know what they mean. So, like, just read the text, and you tell me who this is. And she read it and was like, so this is some cool, time-controlling undead lesbian who's kind of a problem. And I was like, yes, correct.
Perfect.
Yay!
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. That's it. That's her. That's the character.
I'm honestly surprised you had a friend that didn't know about terror. I feel like you would bring that topic up every possible chance you could.
This is one of my exalted friends. I'm now trying to get my exalted friends into playing Malifaux.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I had just picked Terra randomly because I love her, and also because her character card is so flavorful. And then it turns out that she was like, oh, but a time-controlling undead woman is like my favorite thing ever.
Oh no.
I was like, oh, okay, well, I didn't mean to pitch exactly the thing that would get you into it at you, but, you know, I'm glad that I did.
She's mine.
And I, like, this doesn't just apply to the masters, this also applies to everything. Even, like, all the way down to minion cards. These are not named characters, but you understand, like, what they are just from the text on the card. And, like, because we're in the 4E beta, and there's a bunch of stuff that's not been released yet. So we have a handful of new characters that we're getting to meet who we kind of know who they are already just by the information that they have on their character cards. Like, one of the things I remember pretty clearly from, I think it was one of the 2nd edition betas, was getting Talos's card from Terra's crew when he was brand new, and then reading it and being like, okay, well, this is clearly some sort of, like, robot with a big furnace, and he's gonna stick people in it, right? And I had, like, kind of drawn, like, sketched out what I thought, like, Talos might look like, and I was pretty close, except that I had originally imagined Talos being, like, on all fours instead of upright.
Kitty.
Yeah.
I could see that, though. More room for the furnace in a quadruped body.
Yeah, like, more like a walking furnace with, like, a swinging hammer or something, as opposed to, like,
I'm picturing a Pope Mobile situation.
Yeah. So, like, Sonya's new totem, Casimir, that guy, like, I kind of am expecting this to be, like, sort of a thrall-looking dude. And then there's a thing called, like, flesh from metal, so I presume, like, it's gonna have, like, some sort of engine. We're gonna maybe have, like, a hood. I don't know. You can get a good picture of what this model is maybe gonna look like just by reading the card. I think that's cool as hell. And it's consistent across the board, and that's one of the things that I find really impressive about it. Like, I also was rereading some first edition lore, because that's the kind of person that I am. And I just satisfied my curiosity because of the PDF of the first edition core, and the first edition, like, little booklets, remember this is actually before my time, but, like, the character cards were like a little booklet that you unfolded, which looked like a pain in the ass to deal with at the table, but they are a cool idea, and because there was so much information there, they were almost like a character sheet, and I was, I thought about your complaint, Doug, about characters wearing weapons that they don't have. And you made a joke about like Hopkins wearing a bear trap that he's never used. He did have an attack called Hunting Tools at one point, just for the record.
Oh, he had a bear trap in 2nd edition.
Yeah, but he's still wearing his fashionable bear trap, which made me laugh because Sonya has been wearing a gun for 3 editions that she doesn't use.
It shoots fire.
In fact, her unmasked model has 2 guns. They gave her another one when she went crusade. But on her first edition card, she did in fact have a gun.
Wow.
At one point, she did in fact have that gun.
I think it's fucking funnier that Justice used to have a gun, the blind lady.
Yeah, when she was shooting Zero, no less. Yeah.
Covering
fire. Yeah. It's like, stuff like that is so fun and so characterful, and, like, that's, for me, engaging with, like, what these rules texts say about these characters is important to the play experience for me.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's interesting that you're coming at it from this is a good portion of game design, is implicitly telling the player who this person is beyond just here's what they mechanically do. Because we've heard for a couple editions now, like one of the things that Weird does really well is write rules that make the character feel like who they are in fluff, but we haven't had the conversation coming at it from this direction. This is already fascinating.
Yeah. It is, like, I don't think people understand what an art form it is to take just rules text and tell you who a character is with no flavor text whatsoever. Like, the closest thing we get to flavor text on a Malifaux card is just the names of the abilities. And those really go a long way, too. Like, Covering Fire. I'm trying to think of some other, like, real good... But 4th edition has a bunch of real good ones. I was delighted to see that 4th edition is bringing back silly names for things. The amazing... The flaming fist of the amazing Carlos Vasquez, yes.
Exactly. The first thing I thought of.
Yeah, exactly. The separate Victoria's sword attack is now called Shared Steel, which is very evocative, but does make me imagine them throwing a sword back and forth. Extremely
We only have one
name.
sword between us.
2 swords in this economy.
Mom says it's my turn with the sword.
Yeah, I was well, like, one of the things that I kind of think, like, I think 3rd edition did a lot of good work to shore up some legacy issues and to start building a foundation for where we are now. But one of the things that I think it fell down on was, I do think that standardizing a bunch of things was a good idea, but they standardized things to the extent that they lost some of that character, which is really important to being Malifaux. Like, I think one of the things that definitionally makes... What is Malifaux? Well, part of it is that. Like, characterful, flavorful, mechanical text that isn't just cool shit you do in the game, because of course it's cool shit you do in the game, but it also tells you who this character is and how they play.
I kind of wonder, at that point, when Explorers came out, and everybody's like, oh my god, power creep, da-da-da-da, I wonder how much of that power creep, quote-unquote, the feeling of it had to do with Explorers by nature had been removed from the initial standardization, so they ended up with more flavor than the original had.
I suspect that that's twofold. One, that, like, sometimes when you add things late into a design phase, you're like, well, the things we did earlier were kind of a mistake, so we're not going to do it this time. And then you put out something that's rectifying your past mistakes, but other people are like, but my guy didn't get that, and then fans get mad. But fans are always mad, so don't worry about that.
Like, suddenly Explorers is the only people who have Onward, but Onward didn't exist previously, so deal with it.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is that anything that arrives late in a development cycle is always going to be better than the first thing.
Yeah, because you've learned.
Right, yeah, because the designers develop system mastery as the game goes on. And so what you do last in a game's development cycle will always be better than what you do first in the development cycle, no matter what. No matter what. I've been on the writing end of that as much as I've been on the playing end of that. And sometimes, depending on whether or not the developer knows that another edition is coming, there's often sometimes an element of like, fuck it. This is a precursor to what is coming next. So fuck it. We're just you're gonna get a taste of what's coming next, and you can be mad. You can die mad about it. The audience can just die mad about it. Like,
oh god, yes.
Which, yeah, with the keyword rewrites, like we saw, they were already trying out the tacticals of these don't need a stat,
right?
Just stat 0, print the target number, flip that number, have fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can see a lot of that. I was also really I kind of fell off 3rd edition kind of halfway through. I didn't enjoy scoring at all. I think I very publicly on record as talking about how much I didn't like scoring in 3rd edition. But also my group had completely fallen apart. People I was playing with just weren't playing. So I was like, well, I'll just keep buying the books. The stories are going to be good no matter what. And then 4th edition came around and I was like, ooh, this is so good. Ooh, rip my wallet. Ooh, I bought a whole keyword on my new job paycheck.
Oh, darn.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Whatever shall we do?
Yeah. Why was I talking about this? I ADHD'd so hard on a tangent I forgot why I was bringing this up.
I mean, game design of characters. I was throwing in that whole, hey, look, you develop it over time, you get better at it, and looking at it from the...
Oh, right. I was surprised at how much, I saw Sonya Unrelenting, and I was like, girl, why are you so swole now? How did you go from a skinny nerd with, like, defense 4 and walk 4, who, like, fell over to stiff breeze if anyone got close, to being defense 6, speed 7, melee 7? She's melee 6 now, people were really mad about that. And, I was like, where did Swolnya come from? And then I went and looked at her updated version, and it's almost exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is almost exactly the same. You can see where they were going with where we ended. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you, Roman, for getting me back on track.
No problem. Well, and that kind of leads into another thing I thought of was divisive, mostly good, but divisive in Third Ed was bringing out the titles. Mm-hmm. And one thing I think we can all agree that was good in Fourth Ed is, since you're starting with the knowledge that titles are coming, we're getting our crew cards, which is doing what I think titles were intended to do all along, of make the crews feel like two different crews, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But there were definitely some titles that came out, I think a lot of them in Guild particularly, that essentially, from an outside perspective, I always looked at them and I'm like, oh, this is the patch version of the thing that came over that was the copy-paste from Second Ed that didn't quite play the game like everybody else did as the game developed. Because before the Last Breath Sonya update, her unmasked title, honestly, I looked at a lot going, okay, so this is the patch version of we already explode you, but now we're doing it differently.
Yeah.
So clearly we need this other title to be reworked. And I know one of our local friends here, Rob, who plays her, was just like, why don't we have like a melee tank Sonya?
Yeah.
Like, just have her out there directing traffic of her horrible people doing their thing. Why don't we have that? And then suddenly we had that.
That's exactly what Unrelenting does. Like,
exactly.
I really let's talk about crew cards for a second, because I think crew cards are a really brilliant synthesis of Second Edition's upgrades and Third Edition's titles.
Okay.
And it does what both of those things do, but better. In fact, I think the best thing that the thing that is absolutely the best about Fourth Edition is that it looked at a ton of its legacy mistakes and went, we're fixing all of those. Like, one of the things that I had been, like, blowing the horn about in Third Edition beta, but at that point, I think things were pretty finalized, was, like, you are going to have such a design nightmare if you keep allowing attacks to target allies. It's just way easier to go, this thing is the exception, not this thing, because you're going to have a balanced nightmare on your hands when you continue to allow that. And they went, it's fine. And I went, it's not fine. And then I was right. But that's gone. The other side did it. Obviously, the other side, what a wonderful game the other side was. Sorry, it was plagued with so many issues.
Yeah. It is the best game that not enough people
played, and I'm part of nobody. I played it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But I'm really glad to see a lot of its DNA go into Fourth Edition. Absolutely, playing the other side was like, well, they should just strip this for parts for another Malifaux edition, and they did, which was good. That is very good. I really like a lot of the legacy issues quickly resolved, even if it means that many masters have done the faction shuffle, and sometimes in a very weird way. Why is my Bass crew Arcanist now?
Because apparently the guild told him to shoot people he didn't want to, and Tony was like, you need a job?
Ditch these funky white people.
Yeah. Very, very looking forward to seeing what he does in Fourth.
Yeah.
Give me Gun Mage to go with Punch Mage.
Yeah, that'll be... I would like to... Where's the magic part? I'm very interested to see... Will that... Like, we haven't seen it yet, right? He hasn't dropped?
Right.
So, part of me is like, are we going to see a redesign of his playstyle, the mechanical text, to fit the new faction theme? Or are they just kind of going to take the same thing and put it over? Because I don't think the General Frontier thing feels like an Arcanist thing, which that feels is, in design terms, when something feels wrong, it is often because the mechanical expression does not match the flavor. You say, this guy is now part of the wizard faction, and then you're like, okay, well, I would expect him to do a wizard thing at some point. And then when he doesn't, you're like, well, that feels wrong. You told me it was this, but it expresses itself this way. And, like, sometimes... I actually want to talk about keyword next, but yeah, like, I wonder how that's going to fit, because faction itself is part of the vibe. Like,
I personally think he's probably going to fill in the hole left by Marcus.
Oh, yeah,
I'm guessing something similar.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe not mutations, but
yeah. The ideal with terrain, I can get around a lot. I would imagine he'll keep some kind of control elements, but yeah, I'm very interested to see what it is. And with the flavor idea there, I imagine Arcanist is even harder for Weird to write, because yes, we can shorthand them to the wizard faction, but we've seen previously they're more the leftists. We have too many different versions. We can't all get along. Faction.
They're the leftist and fighting faction.
So we have like wizards, but we have a bunch of different types of wizards, and also we have unions and yeah. So
you have the Arcanists who are the leftist and fighting faction, and you have the Outcasts who are the libertarian faction.
Oh, poor Zip.
Poor Zip. Okay. Yeah, he's definitely the person who's in trouble here.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let me put it this way. If you gave a bunch of libertarians sudden access to an airship, what are they going to do with that airship? They're going to try and make that its own sovereign country.
Yeah, sure.
Bears. Somehow.
They're out there in the middle of nowhere being stop-sits, you know? LMA like, don't tread on me! I ain't got nothing to say to you!
I'm still not sure exactly how she's not Arcanist. Or at least
LMA?
having an Arcanist. Yeah.
Because she's a gun runner who lives in the middle of nowhere. Like, have you read her little, like, Through the Breach thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mostly the whole revenge thing.
Oh, the Revenge of the
against
Guild thing? Yeah, I mean, like, she makes as much sense in Outcast as Johan does.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I know this is going to go out as an audio format, but both Doug and Roman went like,
Yeah, we did the considering. Yeah, we did the considering dog head tilt.
Yeah.
Just.
I honestly don't remember what Johan does.
Has a relic hammer and removes tokens.
Yeah, fluff / lore-wise.
He didn't like the Union because it's a front for the Arcanists.
Pathetic.
he was like, wait, what do you mean this isn't actually about, like, workers' rights? It's actually leftist infighting. I'm leaving. I'm gonna go hang out with the soft sits outside of... Hey, Victoria, what are you doing?
And also, again, for some reason, Zip.
Zip, yeah. Well, Zip is here because he wants to marry Parker.
Well, I'm saying in third ed.
Oh, right.
Johan was yellow, but infamous.
He was infamous, yeah. He's back to being versatile. Like, the OG Johan, I think, came in Victoria's box, I think. He was part of her original crew, I think. So I've always thought it was weird that he wasn't also just a mercenary, but I guess she's past first edition. I always thought it was weird.
I was gonna say in second he was, but yeah.
Oh, he had the mercenary quality, as in you could hire him outside of things. I meant mercenaries in capital M fix keyword.
Got it.
Once that became a keyword, I was sort of surprised that he didn't join her. Like, he didn't wind up in her crew, but maybe one relic hammer is enough.
Maybe. Clearly, we're not allowed to have them all three in the same list. It's not allowed.
There's enough questions there. I think we would
there
have
are four. You're correct.
A very enjoyable story that explains all the shit Johan went through and why he went to where he did.
I don't know that there is, but it would be a cool story.
No, I'm saying it should be a cool story, and I would like to believe it's just shit keeps happening to him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is this a good point to transition to talking about keywords?
Yeah, let's talk about keywords, and let's talk about like.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've been fiddling with shit this entire time because I don't have to do the host thing, so now I'm got like nervous energy.
You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's take a brief moment and talk about what makes good game design. And good game design is creating your game towards its thesis statement. Whatever you think the game is about, you are making a game towards that end. In the process, your rules should create an experience that matches what you say it's about. Ideally in a frictionless way, like you put it on the table, whether this is a role-playing game, a board game, or a miniatures game, any trad game there, you put it on the board and it doesn't cause a problem trying to create the thing that it says it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Malifaux's thesis, which if you read the website, is a character-driven, story-based skirmish game. It's not really promising, like, tournament quality, high-tier, tightly balanced tournament play. Like, it's not actually promising you this, like, flawless competitive game. It is promising
a lot
you...
more balanced than most miniature games.
Oh my god, it's still great. Like, this is not to say that it isn't outstanding in its balance, because it actually is, and has been pretty consistently. But what it is promising you is a character-driven, story-based skirmish game. And to that end, it is delivering tremendously. I was kind of having a moment of like, oh yeah, no, this is I had played a game of 4th edition that was so fun. That was when I posted in the chat. I was like, guys, I think Malifaux might be fun, actually. It was that journalist versus performer game, and I was just having so much fun. Like, I had looked down, and my girlfriend was taking her activations, and I'm listening, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, you're pulling all your guys up for it, right, I'm looking at my cards, trying to figure out what I'm going to do on my activation, and I look up, and, like, there was just a steadily advancing line of sequins coming towards me, and I was like, oh, how did you get up here so fast? We're on quarter deployment, how are you this close to me already? And then we kind of got into a really interesting, like, journalist wants to control your interact actions, and it wants you to interact near them, and it wants to, like, be really annoying about you doing that. But performer is like, but I'm too pretty to be bothered by this. And so we just got into a loop of, like, interact for me, but I'm pretty. Oh my god, you're so pretty. we were laughing the whole time, and it kind of made me realize that, like, one of the things that I think fourth edition is doing really well is bring forward the flavor and the vivacity, the life of these characters, like 2nd edition did, but without the part of playing 2nd edition where there was so much friction that you were like, oh my god, I can't think anymore after a match. Mm-hmm. Are you both familiar with what my group called the Malifaux brain? After a tournament, you would be so... Both of you did that head tilt at the same time. After a tournament, you'd be playing all day, and your brain would be so exhausted from making those decisions and managing your list and doing everything in the right order and remembering all your schemes and counterplaying, that you would be so fried that you'd feel like a little lightheaded. But then all you can think about is more Malifaux. Yep. Like, my friend, I have a good friend named Chris, and he and I used to do tournaments together, and we'd be, like, dead in the backseat of the car while someone else is driving, and be like, man, on turn 2 of round 3, I really forgot I can't believe I forgot that Sonya ignores cover while someone has burning, and I could have removed their master and scored significantly more points at turn 1, but I didn't. Not turn 1, is 2nd edition. On turn 2.
Yeah. I can think of several tournaments that ended that way, and I can think of several specific games, specifically against Nate, because that's where the other half of my brain is, being like, man, I am so brain dead from the last 2 games. What the hell are we even doing here? And then, like, both of us would be going for different things, but we would have played around each other just perfectly. Mm-hmm. to, like, end up where the other one could have done what we were doing, but you couldn't actually score the thing you wanted to do. Like, that's the only way I can think to think about it, and both of us would look at each other going, get out of my head. Stop it.
Yeah. One time at a tournament, a second edition tournament, there was a guy who would come to local tournaments and he would run. Do you remember that Nicodem net list that like involved a bunch of Kentoroi and then basically I'm going to just score breakthrough and you just would come at you and you couldn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I held him off the entire game with second edition Parker.
Amazing.
Because I was a better player than he was by a long shot. But like I had him dead to rights, and then he got last activation and pulled up all my Search the Ruins and beat me. But like it was literally because he just used one turn to like pick up all the scheme marker. I think it was a thing that turned scheme markers into corpse markers or something like that, and just like undid it. And if I had delayed the turn by a couple more minutes, I would have beaten him like 6-3, as opposed to losing 3 of my points in one go. So in my head I won, but but still, like I had this other player like on the ropes with a much weaker master. But it took so much of my brain power, and that was the first round. And I wound up in a match second round where I was like, well, I'm playing Victoria, and she was my girl, still is, but like it was a master I knew extremely well. Lined up for that one, and then I was so mentally exhausted from that first round that I almost forgot how to do the Sister Death Machine, which is what my Discord handle is referring to. You're like,
that's a good one.
This person copies this thing, so we have the markers to Zul up, and this person copies this thing, so we have this thing up, and this person's fast, we're gonna drop. Go keep Victoria, big B in your face.
The slingshot.
I didn't slingshot like immediately. I would save it.
The well set up slingshot is how I always thought about it.
I would charge it up a bit and then keep you busy. With Montresor was a pretty regular, because you could Montresor was a pretty regular hire, and he'd just pull everybody in and be like, stay away from my Victorias and my Void Wretches, which are busy reading the game. And if you got past it, then you got slingshotted into.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. But I was so exhausted mentally from that first round that I was like, how do I do this? How do I play my favorite list? And I find that 4th edition has much less of that mental exhaustion because of how much friction they have removed from the system itself. It's still got 2 little points of friction that I wish they'd get rid of, but I don't think they're gonna. One of them is 0-inch melee, and the other is fucking difficult terrain.
Editor Roman here. We did it, everybody! No more 0-inch melees. Thank you, Weird. Yeah, 0-inch melee is definitely... It was already a thing in 3rd, being like, why are we doing this? It slows everything down because you have to be that much more precise on your charges. The one place I think it worked was where you had Slippery. Now, there it worked great, I thought. But now I think it's... The friction's still there for the same reasons.
Right.
But it's more... It has a light shined on it because everybody has a 1-inch engagement.
Right.
So they're the only ones that you can do the old version of, well, I have a 2-inch melee, you have a 1-inch melee, I'm going to hold you back so you're not hitting me.
Right.
But now that only works on these 0-inch folks.
And it's weird, right? It creates this sort of like... friction I'm defining here is any place where you like hit a point with a gameplay and you're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, the point where it pulls you out of what's the word I'm looking for? It's non-intuitive enough that it pulls you out of your suspense of disbelief.
Yeah, your immersion.
There we go.
Yeah. Doug, looked like you were going to say something.
I lost it. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't want to just have the two of us just talk over you the whole time.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm here.
Okay. So, like, one of the things that I think the keyword really delivers on is that from the crew card to the members of the crew to the master, it creates... So one of the things that mechanical design does is that it directs your behavior as a player. This, you can see this also in D&D classes, though I think D&D also falls down on supporting its thesis statement, but that is another podcast.
I mean, you can still bring it up.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
don't care about staying on top of it.
Sure. I'll just pick on D&D for a second, as I think it sometimes
do
falls down
on
supporting its thesis statement, which Malifaux doesn't do. But when you look at a keyword, and the crew card, and the master, and the totem, and then the rest of the crew, all of them are focused towards making you behave the way the keyword wants you to behave. And that is like the personality of the master.
Mm-hmm.
And not every keyword does this, and the ones that they don't, you see people writing in battle reports like, this felt weird. And when you think this feels weird, it's because the keyword's mechanics are making you behave in a way that doesn't match who they say they are. Journalist wants you to be annoying, irritating, and control the way the other person thinks. Witch Hunter wants you to be aggressive, play forward, dispatch your evil guys, and make your opponent so intimidated that they don't notice that you have weaknesses. Performer wants you to move quickly. They want you to not quite think of them as a threat. They get across the board pretty swiftly, and then once they've acted, you're like, oh, that was very competent, actually.
Mm-hmm. They've already been to their different dress rehearsals.
Right.
You have not.
Right. I actually think the flavor of Mercenary is much more clear with Twin Blades than with Ashes and Blood, where it's like, what is going on here? Why are there two of them? They're how fast? Ooh, they hit really hard. What? Suddenly there's a woman with a sword in my face. Uh-oh.
I actually think I can actually talk about this because my one hyperfixation keyword is one of those situations where one half fits its theme so well that no one talks about it, and that's Union President.
Right.
No one is talking about Union President because she's operating how everyone thinks she's supposed to operate, how she's supposed to feel. We still haven't ironed out at all how Troubleshooter is supposed to work, because it's kind of a mix-up between Tony's supposed to be this big tar-pity punchy thing, but also everyone else in the crew kind of has to sort of do that too, but also a lot of people, their entire back of card is about acting like they are working with Union President. And so we can feel the mess, we can feel the difficulty with one, and then we just kind of stop talking about the other one because she feels right. She felt right from the very beginning.
Yeah, her main thing was the summon went through too many hoops. Yes. I think it still might, but it's way better than it was.
Yeah, I invite you to think about your other keywords, because I'm just talking about the ones that I played in the beta so far. And how their rules make you want to play like them. Like, Harold told us, like, fuck them civilians, put those assault markers down. And then the flipping thing also indicates they're, like, hot and cold. Like, they're like, they kill a guy and everyone parties. And then another guy dies and they're like, oh!
And that's another thing that, for that keyword especially, I really liked that it's kind of a nod to, we're really more of an army level group. Not like they're designed for an army level game, but in that they are supposed to be full on army. They're pulling that go to glory idea from the other side.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, Harold Toll has a glory effect. Fuck yes.
Nope.
I was so excited about that. I haven't played him yet. But I was like, just thrilled looking at that, being like, oh, he's got a glory effect. He plays like an other side commander in Malifaux, which looks fun as hell.
McCabe, I would also say, does exactly what you want him to do. Both versions, you're like, well, clearly I need to dig up this grave and find something cool in it. That said, I'm not going to be nice about it, so I'm going to break the thing after I use it once or twice, depending on if you got a greedy thing. But the rest of it, just, we got to run around. We got to find the thing. We got to keep the other people confused so that I can sell them a bridge. And by sell them a bridge, I mean punch them in the face until they leave me alone.
Right.
But yeah, so they do that really well. And this really has just kind of put my thinking cap on in different directions of, why does this feel weird? Ivan Obscura has been one that I've seen people talk about. I have not yet had the time to put him on the table. But he's been one I've seen people talking about, going, he's missing flavor compared to what they did amazingly in 3E, where it was like, this is the heist crew. You can read them and you know they are the heist crew, and also Ivan has shadow people for reasons we haven't seen in the fluff, but
he has shadow people.
Exactly. He has shadow people, and the names of what his actions are and abilities are drive that. And I'd been kind of chalking it up in my head of the flavor is lost just because we have fewer abilities and we're trying to limit how many possible actions that you use once every 10 games on the back of the card aren't there, which I think is good overall. And I was just like, some of that's going to be lost of flavor. But talking about this is making me go, there's got to be some way to adjust Obscura to where he has more of the flavor he's lost. And the other thing I've seen people say about him is his actions on the back of card aren't bad, but his whole activation feels like he's setting up with all of his actions to do the last one, which is summon a thing. And it just feels like there's a lot of process for what should be a master activation.
Yeah.
So that's one I would call out as a contrast to the ones that we've been saying of, like, here's it's working, it's mechanically driven, it tells you exactly what it's doing. Mm-hmm. Editor Roman back again. This is another one that has been recently much improved since we recorded. Yay! This is why playtesting feedback is so important. And yeah, it's, on the one hand, still a heist crew, so should feel a little like it should be able to pull something weird one way or the other just to make the heist work at the last second. But flavor-wise, I don't think that one's there yet. Versus Double Agent, I've seen a lot of people, again, much like Union President, people aren't talking about him a ton, and when they do, it's because they think, he feels good. He feels like a spy. Go do the thing. Mm-hmm. So, again, just fascinating way of just changing that viewpoint a little bit.
Yeah.
Turns out you're good at this.
Thanks. Yeah. So, like, one of the things that I find, I like I said, I stopped doom scrolling and started reading battle reports instead, just for fun and just see what people are saying, because I don't have time to play nearly as much as I used to, and so I'm living vicariously through everyone else posting on the forums, and I'm curious to see, like, what sort of challenges are also presented to the designers, who I imagine are actually trying to fix things towards frictionless, character-driven, story-based skirmishing games, and not what people will play in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is not casting shade, but when you get to sort of the highest competitive level, you sort of stop caring about engaging with the thesis statement. It's more about making things to make sure that you will win, as opposed to engaging with the concept of a character-driven, story-based skirmish. And that's why I was never, like, a super top-table player, because I like engaging with the game as it is intended, and have never particularly cared to ignore that element in favor of being, like, a winner. Mm-hmm. I think part of playing Malifaux in the way that it is intended to be played, which is, again, I'm not casting shade on people who like to play competitively, that is a valid way to play a competitive versus game, is occasionally, one of the things I think that makes Malifaux so good is the decision-making. Mm-hmm. Difficult decision-making is an important part of playing Malifaux, and managing the risk and responding to the way your opponent has also made their own difficult choices. And every so often you get hit with bad luck, and you have to go, fuck it.
Alright.
And instead of...
Fuck it, we do it live.
And I feel like when you are playing exclusively to win, rather than to engage with the idea of an unfolding narrative, you get frustrated with the fact that sometimes randomization foils your plans. And that's why you see people say things like, remove the jokers from the game. And you're like, no, it's a character-driven, story-based skirmish game. Bad things happen. Those are the theses. And pretending that is a bad element is incorrect, because the game is designed to be a character-driven, story-based skirmish game where bad things happen. And, that is what it's trying to do. And so when you remove that element, you are no longer playing the game as it says it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And every so often you have to eat a black joker. I'm so sorry. Bad things happen. That is how it is designed to be played. And playing it with the attitude of, like, well, fuck. Well, alright, we're doing it. Cowabunga it is. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do next. Is, I think, what makes the game so engaging and so fun and so good. And that's why I'll never be number one in the world.
You and me both. Because even when I was doing fairly well in third ed, like, I'm still sitting there, and when you get to the top tables, it's like, well, I'm going to have a good time this game, because this person they're playing on top of the game, we're playing fast, we're having a good back and forth. But I'm over here in the back of my mind going, and here's how the story's going. Zip's gonna fight Shenlong, because it seems like a good idea, but Shenlong really doesn't want to jump on the jetpack.
Yeah, my regular group was all people sort of more like us, and like playing with people who would prefer to play that way. I like if I'm it is a competitive game. We are going to play against each other, and I'm still going to try to beat you because conflict is necessary to the story. The story is that your guy is fighting my guy, and one of us is going to win. And so I'm still going to try to beat you. But, like, I'm not going to stress too much about whether or not, like, I have the perfect list to win. One of the things that I think 3 also fell down on was relying too much on counterplaying your opponent. Like, you kind of had to memorize everything in the game in order to make a list because of the way scoring worked. Which set you up for that middle of the game where you just tried to stop each other from doing stuff. And it created a lot of friction. And eliminated a little bit of that where is the story, right? Like, the evolving schemes give you a little story every turn. Like, oh, Zip needs to do the ritual to score runic binding, and the Skeeters are really good at getting those the ski markers 14 inches apart from each other on the first turn, so, like, I like to see the return to I can look at the starting scoring points, and I can build my list around accomplishing those and where all of them might go, and give myself the tools to be successful through this whole game, which will create an interesting back and forth because I presume my opponent has done the same. And I'm not necessarily trying to stop you from doing what you're doing, I'm giving myself the ability to do it, and we're gonna butt heads because that's the conflict. And it creates something that's much less frustrating and really, really, really fun. And in the middle, it's going to be a lot of bullshit. Like
Shenanigans, we love them.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to think if I have anything more to say. Play Compile, by the way. One of my other notes on here. Speaking of a tightly balanced competitive game that's meant to be like head-to-head competition, is a 1v1 card game where each player is like a supercomputer or AI or whatever, and you're coding reality, and so you draft an 18-card deck based on concepts, and there's a bunch of concepts in there, and they're like love, hate, fire, water, spirit, and you make like you make a deck, and then you put them in rows, and you play against each other trying to compile each row, and it has sort of the Malifaux thing of like all mechanical text creates a ton of flavor. I own a copy. I love playing it. I'm very bad at it. If I can squeeze it into my suitcase, I will bring it with me. I mean, it's little. It will fit in my suitcase, but we'll see what I can fit in there with everything else I'm bringing.
Cool. I wanted to mention the schemes as well.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, you and I are on the same page when it comes to third ed. Scoring was in a very strongly developed game in many ways, scoring was the weak point as far as enjoyment goes.
It sucked.
It was very grindy. And you could, I wouldn't say it was solved, but you could effectively fake solve it by going, I'm going to remove enough of your actions that you can't get the end points, and I'm going to. Of the changes they've made into 4th Ed, I do think the storytelling schemes is the greatest improvement they've done from 3rd Ed to 4th Ed, because if you are that person, like myself, who's going, well, this is the narrative in my head as the game is going, this is giving you the structure of that narrative, which I imagine is going to help people who don't do that innately start to do that, which in turn, again, as you've said, mechanically based instruction on the player. I had somewhere I was going with that, and I don't remember what it was, other than I fucking love it.
Yeah, I would love to see some of my old weird favorites come back, like Catch and Release.
Yes.
And Deliver a Message.
No, never mind. No, boo.
No?
Go away.
Deliver a Message? You didn't...
Okay, no, I am an Ironsides main, and throughout all of 3rd edition, Tony Ironside's shtick is that, you come here, please, I wish to punch you. And then she does that, and the other person's like, ow, you punched me, message.
I was thinking about the 2nd edition version, which is kind of the same.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
like, You get your low-cost guy all the way around to stand next to the master, and then flip them off.
Exactly.
There's so often a 10 Thunders brother ran around the side of the building, sidled up to Victoria, and went...
Well, I think second edition it cost like 2 AP, right? That was the limiter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
whereas
my wife really liked Shenlong, second edition Shenlong, and so Sensei Yu would just blow the 10 Thunders brother into engagement with her, and then it would when that turn came around would kind of activate me out or wait until she had gone, and then blow the 10 Thunders brother over there, and then deliver a message. Deliver a message in public demonstrate. Victoria got public demonstrated a lot too.
Yep.
And chased around the board on Misaki games trying to get assassinated a lot. Victoria ran away from being assassinated a lot!
That's at least part of where my brain was going with this. If one thing I think the narrative developing schemes are doing well, but very quietly, is not only is it, hey, you did this thing, and now you have these 3 things to choose from. The current version we're seeing, a lot of them make sense in the way it's like, well, you scouted the rooftops, now you're going to go take the high ground. Or I don't remember what actually is attached there, but it is like, oh, well, I scouted this. The next thing I have is I'm planting bombs there,
right, yeah.
And then I'm leaving.
Right.
Or I'm going to have you fall off the roof because you were up and I can't have anybody know that I put bombs up there, kind of a situation.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
I love that, and I'm really interested to see, and I know we're not even done with GG1 here yet, but I'm really interested to see what they do when they introduce others into that pool, because I could see situations where you just go, okay, we're leaving the structure of this the same, but I'm going to pop this one out in that place, and will that change what roads interconnect between the schemes?
Yeah, this is the most I've been excited about a core set of scoring, the core scoring pool. I think the core scoring pool for the previous 3 editions has been very weak. Like, it was okay, it was a good place to start, but there were a lot of cases where I read through them and I was like, well, this will get better in GG1. Which is a legacy issue, that like, having a good, solid core scoring set that doesn't need to be tweaked too much, that's fully playable outside the box, grows your audience and creates a very pleasant, casual experience. One of the things I do think that 3rd edition fell down on, too, was catering too hard to the competitive crowd, who is a small portion of the group. Whenever you have a game like this that is a versus game, the vast majority of your audience are people who are just playing it at home for fun. The people who are like serious tournament players are like, I don't know, 1 to 5% of your group. They do give a big shit though, so they're very loud. But you can't always listen to them. However, building a solid foundation that makes just basic at-home beer and pretzels play with your buddies good and fun makes for a better competitive scene. When your fundamentals are solid, when your basic stuff, like the Malifaux casual play really shouldn't be like, oh well, we're not competing. Well, no, it's a skirmish game. We're fighting. We are competing. That is part of the story. Our 2 guys are beating each other up. That's the story. It's like a fighting game, right? It's not ignoring that part. It's playing to the part where you are focused on, like, this is a cool story that is unfolding, and sometimes we say fuck it when we can't control the outcome. That's your casual play, right? It's a little bit more relaxed. We're not really going to worry about all our TNs or stacking up too many. Though, like, having your TNs be balanced actually makes your casual players have less friction when they play their game. One of the people on our Discord was like, how do I make a Vix list that gets across the board as fast as possible? And one of the things I had said was like, okay, you might not want to take both Ella and V because they both require an 8 in their TN that moves people forward, and it may be frustrating to have to manage your hand that way, right? In a tournament play, you might be like, well, I'm not going to take those 2 things because that would be an inefficient use of my resources, but for someone who's just playing for fun, they may reach a point where they find that they can't do their thing because they flipped poorly and they don't want to waste a high card on that, or they flipped poorly and they have a bad hand. And then you've created sort of a situation where you're like, well, why can't Ella, who is riding this guy, like, put them on the back and keep going? Like, why is that so hard? You know? And then you get this, it takes you out of it for a second where you're like, but she's riding on the big mechanical cat. Why is it so hard? And you when you balance those things out, you create an experience for people who are just playing for fun that is more fun for them, but is balanced for people who are playing it seriously. One directly benefits the other.
Makes sense. Kind of a game designer's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, yeah. You satisfy the biggest portion of your audience, and then you can build from there. Like, I would actually really love to see the first GG simply be a tournament standard. Like, I have said a couple times, like, you can't score breakthrough on the first turn. You simply can't. It is a dead scheme on the first turn, unless you're playing Wedge. Wedge, maybe you can do it if you start at the top of the triangle.
Wedge with some of the faster ones, maybe. But yeah, if you see that, it doesn't happen.
There are a handful of broken keywords that can do it. Dua can.
Okay.
Some Arcanist with specifically Harris J5, but in general, it's totally impossible.
Okay, so there's a tiny corner case. But so that there's like one or two things that can do it, but for the most part, if you are not facing one of those two things, or if we're again talking about a casual play group where like I have the Victorias and a bunch of guild and my other players have like 10 Thunders or something, anything that's not going to do it, for my group, that is a dead scheme on turn 1. No one is taking breakthrough on turn 1, even if it's in the pool. So I would love to see some attention paid to that sort of thing, and like maybe have like a first turn set or whatever. Go ahead.
You do actually take it if you specifically want the trio that comes after.
Sure, but then you're waiting until like turn 2 or something to score. Probably.
I've had a decent amount of games where like none of the starting schemes are terribly reasonable to do.
Yeah, I think that's a slight problem with the setup.
It is.
And I would I don't think they're going to change that too much, which is okay for the core set, but I do think it's something to be examined, especially with the whole like making the casual play experience good, benefits competitive play. But I would like to see a tournament standard that looks at that a little bit more specifically for fair and balanced play.
There's also,
go ahead.
I mean, yeah, that's the most obvious one, but there's also one, I would almost say just as many ones that are dead, like turn 4, turn 3.
Yeah, I would love to see sort of a setup for schemes that's like, these 8 are, there's 16, these 8 are turn 1 and 2, these other 8 are turn 3 and 4, and you shuffle them in. Or that you remove them from your starting set. Like, turn 3 and 4 ones you set aside, because you just shuffle and randomize. So you are only pulling from things that happen on turn 1 and 2, and then they path into 3 and 4. But I can see that for a tournament-specific GG thing, as opposed to a core set. But I do think that's something that they should give some consideration to, because I think it's a point of friction.
Yeah. I would agree there. And I do think there's a couple of schemes in there that do need a little balancing. Leave Your Mark right now, at time of recording, requires 3 scheme markers within 1 inch of the center point, and no enemy scheme markers within 1 inch of those.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you can declare it at the end of any enemy turn, but I cannot think of any keyword that can get those 3 markers down in an activation if they weren't already standing there. Editor Roman back again. This is another case of Weird has listened to feedback and this has been improved. Great job. And then also have a setup where your enemy can't get one person over there to throw one down in what is effectively like 4 inches away from the center line spacing for scheme markers.
You could maybe do it with Herald Artillerist.
Okay.
By having someone get to the middle and put one down, and then doing his Soulstone trigger on launch into space, which puts 2 steam markers. Which puts 2 steam markers down.
Right, but that's still over a couple different.
That's 2 activations. Yeah.
And my point is, as soon as you put one in the middle there,
someone is like, "Well, that's what you're doing." Oh no, you're leaving your mark clearly.
Yeah. And I'm kind of wondering, I'm looking at like what levers could they push on a little bit, one way or the other, to make that a little easier without making it too easy. One thought is make it a little bit bigger, maybe 2 inches from the center line or center mark instead of 1. Make it to where the enemy scheme marker, obviously make it 2 scheme markers instead of 1 or instead of 3, etc. I don't know what the answer is there, but I'm hoping they touch that one a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Y'all just need false claim. That's your obvious problem.
So this is actually why I'm bringing it up, Doug, because I tried it last week with 2 union miners, still couldn't do it.
Really? Wow.
It was
okay.
by getting them up there so that they could just false claim twice. If you're going to false claim twice, that is now putting out 4 of your 5 scheme markers. So if you had any down anywhere else, you're starting to pick them up. And maybe you now don't have things to feed them at the end of the turn, which, granted, that's less of an issue for the first point, but the second point, you need the most scheme markers near the middle point, so you need to keep putting them down. But essentially, the act of setting up was so much of a bright blinking neon sign that my opponent just said, well, I'm going to send someone over there, I'm going to throw down 1 scheme marker, and it's going to be on my base, so you can't remove it. And now I have to deal with that thing, but I don't have what I need to get rid of them.
Yeah, there's still a couple schemes that have some of that friction.
Yeah, and I think the fact that there's only a couple of them further highlights how well Weird is doing on this, but it does further even more highlight the ones where that friction is there, because it feels weird.
Yeah. I think that a lot of the time, just everyone listening, when you have a sense that something feels wrong, simply point out that it feels wrong and why it felt wrong, and the designer will figure out how to fix it.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But
and big props to the whole dev team, but I know especially in the open beta forum, Justin, I've seen, has been very proactive. Maybe not very, very answering of questions when people are like, this is weird and I don't like it, why? I've read a number of his posts where he's going, well, here's our thought process behind it, and just big applause to Justin. Thank you for taking the time to do that.
That kind of transparency is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish, this is just me being a game design nerd and a game design professional, I do kind of wish that I knew what the thesis statement was for each keyword. MNSU is supposed to be this. Mercenary is supposed to be this. Journalist is supposed to be this. It's supposed to play this way. So that when you hit a point where you're like, I don't like the way this feels, you can tell when it is your own thoughts on how it should feel versus what they want it to be. I would kind of really like Ronin to be a little bit more schemy. Me personally would really like them to have the draw out secrets trigger so that Vix A and B, who are not very schemy at all, aren't playing on their back foot against super schemy crews. Especially since you can place Ronin and they get to make an attack, and you do that and you have a tome, and then boop, I got a scheme marker out of that, right? I think that would improve both of their scoring games. But that's clearly not what they want from them, so that's just my opinion, right? And no amount of me being like, well, it's my opinion and I'm clearly right, is going to change anything, right? And if I kind of knew what the goal was, I'd shut up about my own opinions, except in places where, I'm allowed to express them, here. I'm going to keep my own opinion out of official feedback because it's my own opinion and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that point where the Venn diagram of helpful feedback for the design versus my opinion, when it's not in the overlapping section of that circle, if we knew it wasn't in the overlapping section, we could just
leave it out. Yeah.
Exactly. And then they have just that center of the circle overlap to focus on from a dev point of view.
I can complain about it on your show instead, which is the
platform. That's what we're here for.
Hey, I'm helping.
I had a question following up from the scheme idea of telling these things. The strategies.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of them have their fourth point is you kind of do this stretch goal extra, not quite a scheme thing, which I'm a big fan of. It adds a little bit to it. It's a little more interactive than just, well, did I score on the last turn? Cool, I get double.
Yeah.
Because I know I'd seen a couple of bat reps where it's like, well, all I had to do to get that was not worry about turn one, focus on murdering, and then I can get the last one because you have fewer people.
Right.
And I'm like, that is a legacy issue from 3E.
Yeah. We call that a perverse incentive.
Aha. Good terminology.
Yeah. We want to avoid perverse incentives.
Yeah. So I guess my question there is, has anybody else found similar with that, with the strats that still do have a, hey, you scored the last turn, get 2 points, instead of, here's another thing to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, we were just talking about how, like, that creates what I like to call a perverse incentive, where you want to do something that's sort of against the way the game wants you to play in order for it to create a benefit. Where you're like, I want to lean on murder, a thing that has never particularly made for a good Malifaux game, to force my opponent to have less models so that I can just push myself into scoring, which is a perverse incentive. You don't want to do that. So I've only gotten to play like 3 times, and I played Boundary Dispute twice and then Collapsing Mines once. And I never got past turn 2 because we were all 2 of the games we were trying to refamiliarize ourselves with 4th edition, having not really played very seriously since the end of 2nd and a touch of 3rd. So it was all like, what does this rule mean? I think it does the same thing it does in 2nd edition. Well, I don't know. What do you know? We'll look it up on your phone. No, you look it up on your phone. Okay, fine, I have mine.
Yeah.
And I was writing a battle report each time, so a ton of time was sort of sunk into, I'm reading everything, I'm writing down what we're doing, and we're making sure that we're playing it as accurately as possible. So we only got through like 2 turns in our 2.5-hour playtime.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people being like, I don't think this will ever be under 2 hours. I disagree with that, but I do think that is strongly dependent on internalization of rules. And I do kind of think that, like, one of the things that would really go a long way to making the game faster is some sort of onboarding guide for people who have never seen this before. We'd, like, go, I don't know, let's just use Mercenary because I know them pretty well. Like, Mercenary is a fast crew that wants to get across the other side of the board and skirmish, like, in and out with your opponent's team. A and B are Scheme Runner Hunters. You want to watch out for your opponent's, like, low-cost, fast models and kill them with them. And Twin Blades is sort of a counter-schemer crew directing piece. Just say that.
And then effectively package in with the crew the thesis statement for the crew in each title.
Yes. Which gives someone who has never seen this before and hasn't been playing for 3 editions a place to begin. And you can say, for A and B, take 3 Ronin, a Desperate Mercenary, and blah, 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 right? And Vanessa. You'll have take your core box plus Vanessa plus another thing, right? And then you'll have a solid crew. For Twin Blades, take, Big Jake and something else, and you'll have this kind of crew, right? Even if that's not optimal, it gives someone a place to start and a concrete list of things to purchase from you, and gives them a place to begin. And then you can even go so far as to suggest, like, you may want to play this crew for Search the Ruins, or Scout the Rooftops, because they're very good at getting on top of buildings, right? Like, I understand that people have done this as fans, but I would like to see it in an official capacity, and even if they don't particularly want to, like, print that on a card that comes in a box, put it on the website.
Yeah. That'd be easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Just deputize one of the content creators.
Sure.
And make their shit official.
Who would do such a thing? Who would?
Guys, I'm willing to just do assembly for y'all. Just make me official, please.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be cool, because I like the fact that you focus that on the keyword, because I hadn't thought about that, because as you were saying, I want an onboarding process. We haven't seen it yet at time of recording, but they have said, hey, the rule book is not going to be the big comprehensive rules that we're seeing currently in the playtest. It's going to be something else that is more quick start. So it sounds like for the core rules, they're planning on doing that, but I agree, the next step of that would be like a keyword version, or a keyword quick start card. Yeah.
Just
that'd be very
cool. A suggestion for, like, this is how they play, so you get an idea of, like, what you're going to do with them. These are the things that they're going to be good at. Think about taking them. Like, one of the things I really liked was that Assassinate says now, you may want to ask your opponent about the health of models to throw them off your game.
Yes.
And I'm like, I want that on every scheme. I want that on every scheme.
Absolutely.
I want every scheme to say, I want a loading screen hit help tip for everything. Because not everyone has been playing this for a long time, and not everyone thinks the same way. And the more you help people get started, the more people play your game.
Yeah.
The more people play your game, weird.
Yeah, no, I fucking love that, and I agree with you 100%. I had my game last week. I was playing one of our locals who's kind of come back after drifting away in third ed, and he starts asking, "Hey, not that I'm taking Assassinate or anything, but how many points does that person have left on him?" And I was like, "This is perfect," because honestly, my weird twisted brain, I'm like, clearly he's not taking Assassinate. He's just trying to freak me out.
Yeah, I would love to see things like that, like a little help tip across the board. And the people who are playing seriously won't need it, and they'll ignore it, and they're going to do something probably better than what you have suggested anyway, but you're not talking to them. You're not talking to them. You're talking to the people who have walked into a game store, saw, I don't know, 2 white women with katanas, and their ragtag band, and went, "That is the coolest thing I've ever fucking seen. How do I play them?"
Yes,
Doug's
absolutely.
face.
Just the idea of them of Weird Games, Jonathan Weird himself, on official documentation, encouraging you to lie.
Yep,
is
perfect.
so beautiful. I'm just amazed by it.
And it's very Malifaux.
Yeah.
Very Malifaux.
Yeah, and that, like, doing things like that also puts you in the mindset of being, like, the scoundrel here who is lying, cheating, and stealing for soulstone and glory, right? Like, every master's kind of a bad person in some degree. That's part of the fun. You are playing sort of a bad person in a bad situation. And like I said earlier, the mechanical design frames your behavior. That's what it does. That's what mechanics do. They structure play. They frame your behavior. And from the beginning, you're already like, well, I'm gonna lie, cheat, and steal to win. Not that I'm declaring assassinate or anything, but how many wins do you have left?
Exactly.
I'm just gonna what things on here are height 2? Just that.
Just curious.
Okay. I'm just gonna measure and see if this is 6 inches away from my deployment zone for no particular reason.
Yeah, I was playing against my partner who was playing Frycore when it first dropped, and I was playing the Victorious again, and I described it in my battle report as a merry brawl around the center. This is a boundary dispute game, so we were both like fighting around the last couple points and throwing the markers back and forth. And I had like almost the entire Frycore list just tied up by LMA and Taylor.
Amazing.
And she had deployed 3 Frycore scouts, like in it. There was like just like a shooting gallery. Like, I dare you to put a Victoria up through this. It also took 5 activations to kill Taylor. She probably shouldn't have wasted 5 activations killing Taylor, but but there was a point at which that was happening, and I got out my little 6-inch ruler and I started measuring 6 inches because that's the distance for double up. And she was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you keep measuring 6 inches? Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "Did you forget that double up is a 6-inch range? And like, I've got 2 Victorias within that and a Ronin over here, and like, if I pop her in here, she gets to hit you." And she was like, "No, whoops."
It's the skirmish game version of when you're playing any RPG and the GM just starts rolling dice or like taking a note here and there. Everybody's just sweating and like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah. Well, one of the other really fun Malifaux moments is when someone is like, "Okay, well, since you did that, I get to do this," and you're like, "What?"
I didn't want to do that thing anymore. Can I get a take backsy, please?
If we're playing a kitchen table game, sure. If we're not, no. I think that's...
I really want a keyword that has an ability of take backsy. I don't know what it does, but I want it to happen now.
Token, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Just print your own token, backtrack tokens. That's a take backsy.
They're like, "I have a backtrack token. Where did you get it from? 33? She's not on this list and you're playing guild." "Well, she still gave it to me."
I'm holding on to it for a friend.
I think did I have anything else I wanted to say? Not that you can tell me.
Talk about how much I enjoy the scheme, the system.
Yeah,
now
talk about it.
For like 10 minutes.
Go for it.
Okay, so as someone who has a hard time not having a competitive mindset when playing this game. I did not like how schemes worked in 3rd edition. I don't think a lot of people were really big fans of it, but I hated the fact that optimal play was to hide your schemes for as long as you could. Optimal play was to be able to reveal your scheme turn 4 and score the extra point turn 5, because if you're in a comfortable place to do that, it's the shortest amount of time your opponent has to counterplay you. This does the complete opposite, where now I can, and if this is an entirely new play style that didn't really exist in 2nd edition or 3rd edition, we need to rethink what being a good schemer is in 4th edition. It's no longer just being able to move fast and put down scheme markers. It's being able to flex into as many different schemes as you can on the fly and score them as quickly as you can. At least back when she was able to put down scheme markers, Union President was fucking obscene at schemes, where I thought that was because the entire MNSU playstyle shifted really hard in this new edition. Now they're not impossible to kill, but now twice I've scored all of my scheme points, like 1 or 2 activations into turn 3. That is so much fun. To be able to, like, I'm done. Maxed out, now let's just play the rest of the game for the rest of the game. I don't have to deal with that anymore. And that's amazing, because my addiction through Malifaux, besides I really enjoy the story aspect of it, and obviously playing and winning is good, but feeling clever is my cocaine. And you have so many more moments of that with the current scheme system versus you get one opportunity to be like, aha, this is my points. Yay me. I am very smart. Clap, please. Where I can, you got 3, sometimes 4 instances of that per turn, and every new turn is a complete reset of that. Okay, we're on to a new thing. How do I do this? How do I fool my opponent? How can I implement it, but also still scoring the other shit, and maybe punching things if I have time?
Yeah. With my first impression, like my very first beta game was not good for me. But that was also because I was playing the early Vics who were not... The early separate Vics were bad. They were not in a good place. They couldn't kill anything. They died through a stiff breeze. And now they're in a much better place. I guess my last criticism is, like, they have so many Soulstone triggers that the, like, scarcity... the scarcity doesn't matter. You are ignoring half of them. Like, I understand that the scarcity mechanic is a thing that is important, but what I want from that is for all those choices to be made equal, so that I feel pressed whenever I have to make the decision, as opposed to being like, well, my Soulstones are for battle tempo and they're for parry, and they're for nothing else. We'll into the fray if we're in a pinch, or healing energy if we're having a problem, but I can also just get healing from, like, the effigy. I could just pay 2 Soulstones to have a little guy who heals me instead. And then I can safely ignore 2 Soulstone abilities from a bunch of my guys. And I am probably only going to be playing against my regular friends, of whom are not huge Summoner fans, so Taylor's Welcome to Malifaux Smush is probably not going to benefit me too often. Once every so often, I'll hit that thing and feel really clever. But for the most part, I've narrowed this down to 2 things. I'm going to battle tempo when I need to, I'm going to parry when I need to, and my 5 or 6 stones, which feel mandatory, another point of friction, are going to go to those 2 things. And, like, I think that's another thing that probably will need to be refined throughout the game. But when I was playing this, I was like, hey, so many 8 of 12, this is 12 at the start of these schemes, are completely scheme marker dependent. And so any crew that does not place them outside of their activation is playing on their back foot all the time. That feels weird and wrong, and I know people will disagree with me, but I think from your design point, every keyword should have the tools to play the game. They don't have to be, like, they can be better at some things than others, but the tools need to be in the toolbox, and if they aren't in your keyword, then they need to be in your versatile list.
Yeah. I would agree there. And the fact that we just, at time of recording, recently got the full... I think it's all
the versatiles, yeah.
All the versatiles are out now. And I'm interested to see how testing goes in the next, couple weeks to see how that affects things. Because while there's definitely some keywords that need some adjusting one way or the other in bigger ways than others, there's also plenty that I think we're like fine-tuning things often I've found that those are making the stone triggers
Yeah.
equally useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even there's some keywords where it's like the different things you're using stones for, all of them are, you're not going to do this every game or every turn, but when you need it, it's there.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how adding the versatiles into that changes things. Mm-hmm. And overall, I did like seeing, and I'm looking at this from an Arcanist point of view, because that's what I have on the front of my brain. The keens are like immediately obvious what each of them does.
Right.
Irina eats markers, and Altus removes, not conditions, tokens.
Yeah.
That's going to take a minute. and it's very clear what they do, but the thing that I noticed between the two of them, taking them both this last week, even if markers aren't on the table, Irina will still feel good. Not like, holy shit, she's on fire good.
Right.
But if your opponent is not handing out tokens, I don't think Altus feels like he's worth his cost.
Right, yeah.
And part of that is his attack is only 1 damage, which, on the one hand, is okay. Not many things reduce to 0, but the things that do right now are ties, which your opponent can control, and cover, which has been thesis stated, this should be everybody's damage reduction. You want to play around stuff. At which point, anything that is 1 damage, I start looking at as suspect. But especially range damage on a magic attack that can't get more damage from raises.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that where I'm like, okay, very clearly, and maybe it's just the fact we were focusing on this is what these guys are for specifically. Cool, we got them where they need to be. Now let's adjust them so they're just generically okay. Not good, but generically okay. Outside of that, maybe that we're still there, but I noticed a good amount of 1 damage in the versatiles, and I was kind of like, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah, I would be interested to see how that shakes out with people's actual play over the next couple weeks. I think it's fine for some versatiles to simply be tech picks. Like,
absolutely.
You're like, I know I'm playing so-and-so, and they love McMorning, and I better have some way to get rid of that fucking poison, or I'm in trouble, right? I suspect when we see Hamlin, it'll probably be very similar. Like, oh, the rats are going to make me sick, so I better bring some token removal.
Or Brewy.
Or Brewy, right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
Like, less so Karis and Sonya, actually. They're not quite as much set everyone on fire. They do want people to be on fire, but Iron-Threaded Karis seems much less focused on that, and Unrelenting Sonya also seems much less focused on that. A change from their previous approaches. But yeah, I think it's fine, because like Johan is also, am I taking him to scream tokens off of people? Is he worth his cost? Am I paying those, especially thinking of this largely as a mercenary player, it's like, am I taking him to double him up and then yell things off of him, or to combat maneuver him into something? Because you have to also think, like, the versatiles don't get your keyword stuff. And that makes them... It's a difficult design question, right? Because you want your versatiles to be desirable to take to fill in the gaps, or to tech pick into something specifically if you know you're playing against a particular opponent. Whether you're playing for fun or whether you're tournament playing. But also, they don't benefit from the thing that gives you your cool feeling. They're always going to sit outside it, and so they're always going to feel a little off, because they don't get to they don't get to battle tempo, they don't get to increase your scandal bar, they don't get to set things on, they don't get to like benefit from being set on fire, right? And so they have to be desirable outside of that. And when you have something like Mercenary, where you're going to be pulling people up the board with double up or with combat maneuver from everyone else, but they also can't do it, you have to kind of think of, like, is the cost-benefit analysis between benefiting from my keyword ability worth taking something that doesn't also get to use it?
Great point. My thought there would be, from looking at it from the other side, because they're automatically not getting your ally stuff, does that, in your opinion as a designer, does that give them a little more wiggle room for, hey, this doesn't have to be noticeably worse than your keyword model for it to be okay as a versatile, because it's already innately going to not synergize as well with your crew by not being an ally.
Yeah, I think that is okay, but I think that is a scary proposition, because as the designer, then you can't make something that's so good everyone takes it.
Right. Yeah. You still have that same problem with versatiles.
Right.
I'm saying, does this kind of give you a little bit of a bowling alley bumper?
Yeah.
To say, hey, as long as I make this roughly the same as something of the same cost, it's going to be innately less good because it won't synergize as well.
Yeah. I think that answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like I said. It's a hard position for a designer to be in because you don't want it to be so worse than your keyword that nobody takes it, but you don't want it to be so much better than the keyword that everyone takes it.
Yeah. And I would imagine that's got to be worse the more expensive something is. Like any of the 10 cost versatiles that we saw from Ashes that we're now seeing now. Like I'm imagining those are going to be some of the harder things to balance as versatiles. The riders, of course. I was
just about to be like, how about them 11 cost riders?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That have the amalgam keyword.
Yes.
They all have the amalgam keyword.
I mean, Rusty's going to be an actual horse girl.
Yeah. I'm excited for Horse Girl Rusty Alice. I'm really interested to see how that plays, and if it'll have sort of a weird rule where it's just like, yeah, you can have all 4 of them. That's your list. And
kind of like we've seen with the Crossroads.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Where it's like, I wonder if her horseman thing is, if you play her as a horseman, you get the 4 horsemen, and that's it, and a pile and a bunch of soul stones.
Yeah, I could see something like that. My thought there though is, you almost have the reverse issue of they're all versatile, so they have to be good as they are, and they have to be quote unquote worth 11 stones, which is already a tricky needle to thread because. Nothing else is 11 stones.
Yep.
Not even Masters. Masters are considered 10 now. Yep. Which I looked at the writers and was like, oh, yeah. And so they have to be good for versatiles, but they also have to fit in this keyword where you probably can take all of them, and they will all be allies. So they're getting whatever that thing is. And I'm going, oh boy.
Yeah.
Like I recognize that the things that we're seeing on them right now are probably a bit too much, but as we've heard Weird say multiple times, it's easier to rein something in than it is to pump it up.
So much easier to overshoot and tone it down than it is to undershoot and have to figure out how to bump it up. That is also, every time I've had to write like powers for an RPG or something, that's always my approach. I'm going to make this too good, and then you can tell me how to make it less good, because it is so much easier to go, oh, well, I'll put a resistance roll on this, or I'll cut this other rider, and so it doesn't do 2 things, it only does 1. And it is truly way easier to throw something out there and have it be OP and have everyone go, oh, it's so OP, bleh! and then tone it down. That is truly easier. Please don't get mad at the game designers for doing this. Also, on a don't get mad at the game designers note, none of you know what is going on behind the scenes. I'm yelling at the entire audience now. None of you know what is going on behind the scenes, so when someone doesn't listen to you or doesn't implement something, you do not know what is happening back there. You don't know what their time frames are like. You don't know what other things they're doing. You don't know what other things they have to take care of. And sometimes when you have, oh god, how many fucking models are there? There's
1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
So many.
At least 5. There's at least 5 models, and that makes things very difficult to choose what you focus on, and sometimes you just have to go, well, this is good enough, and I can't tinker with it anymore, even if people don't like it. It is meeting my thesis statement in a way that I, the designer, find satisfactory. And sometimes you just have to go, well, I'll have to catch it during the first errata because it's good enough. There are bigger fish to fry, and I do see a lot of like, they're not listening to me. I'm certain that they are, actually. But you do not know what other factors are in play. Chill a little.
Yeah, you don't know which designer was able to, like, had booked time to adjust this keyword based on this feedback that they've been taking notes of for how many weeks of whatever you've said. Like, they just didn't get to that one this week. On the front of sometimes you can't tinker with it anymore. One of the posts I just saw from Justin this week was about Angler, because they just got a sizable adjustment, and somebody must have said, like,
okay,
Angler.
I heard anger for a second, and I was like, oh man, did Justin get like some crazy hate mail and have to write this thing that's like, please don't death threat me, it's just a game. For a full second, I believed I lived in a reality where that had happened.
Oh no! As far as I'm aware, no.
Thank
Angler,
God. Please don't do
Fisher,
that.
Fisher
Okay, yeah, the
gremlins.
Clampets. Okay.
Yeah, everyone be nice to Justin.
Please
We
be
like
nice
him.
to Justin.
But he had a really good post, and I just enjoyed reading.
Okay.
Where he kind of pulled back the curtain a little bit and said, "So the notes we had on Angler previously were they need a few more ways to get out the markers that they're using, the tide pools, for the many ways that they're using them. Now we could have just thrown in one or two more ways to do that and said, hey, we're done. But we also, in internal discussions, came up with, what if we adjusted them a little bit to do it this way instead? And so we decided to do that, because even if this is entirely trash and everyone tells us so in the next week or two, we can still revert to what we had before and just throw in the couple things of give us more tide pools, and we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes
but
you
wanted to see...
do in fact draft up two versions, put one out, and then if that doesn't work, we'll do the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do really appreciate him, calling that out, and that bit of behind-the-curtain viewpoint I think will help a lot of people maybe having trouble with that. But also just the fact that they are on whatever time frame they're on and have the comfort level of, wait, we had this idea, let's take a big swing and see if it works. I personally am not a fan of a lot of the multi-stone things that they have going on. They're big swings, I'll give them that. But I hope, and from what we've seen, I think this is true, I hope they are okay killing their darlings if people go, guys, I know we aren't, thesis statement-wise, making a purely balanced competitive game here, right. But if I can spend 2 stones and do whatever the first week we saw of Witnesses thing of, hi, we're going to do Runic Binding, but get, a lot of damage on you for doing it.
Yeah, couldn't you catch an entire crew and stun the whole thing? Yeah.
And you could do that multiple times as long as you had stones and do multiple damage to everything. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, well, so what that creates, even if that fits Damien's vibe, that does create a point of friction, because there isn't a whole lot you can do about it. And you don't really, because Malifaux is also very much a game about acting and reacting. When you strip the reacting part from the other person, you create a point of friction, and then you create sort of an unpleasant play experience. And the more the designers can focus down removing those, the better it will be. Because imagine just playing a pickup game with your buddy at the game store, and then he stuns your entire list, and you can't do anything, and now your fun afternoon out is no longer fun.
Or you're playing against someone of, maybe it's their second game, and their first game was really fun, and they put time into doing that, and your slightly more competitive friend in the group goes, cool, I'm trying this out to see how bad I can make it for my opponent. But they don't necessarily say that out loud.
Right, yeah.
You might have just lost a new player.
Right, yeah.
Because you want them to have the agency, which is one of the things that Malifaux's great at, because cards instead of dice.
Yeah.
Among other things, but that's the easy one to point at.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox on the multi-stone things. I, though, am not a developer. They're going to know better
jump
than...
off the Soulstone thing, though.
Yeah,
because one of the open thesis statements about the Soulstone thing is that it should feel scarce, right? And we already talked about, sometimes feeling like some choices are better than others, and I already talked about, I'm ignoring almost all of these in favor of these 2 other things, which I don't think is good. And I don't really think we should be in that situation. I think I should feel pulled between them. But with the big 2 Soulstone swings, one of the things that I think is another small point of friction that I personally would love to see in a tournament standard is a fixed Soulstone pool. This is a 45 and 5 is the tournament standard, right? Everyone has 5 stones, which then allows you as the designer to go, in tournament standard, everyone has 5 stones, and so I know exactly how many stones are going into this game, and that helps me balance what costs 2 and what costs 1. And how often I think I should, and how often I want my players to be using that, and how I want to direct their behavior in that way. Because when you have a resource management mechanic, you kind of really need to stay on top of how many go in, how many are spending, and how many come back. And then you have things like Tara's Soulstone Sword and Colette Smuggler that throw those right off. And you have to watch that too, because those people then have an advantage, even if you're doing a fixed value.
And there's I know I've talked about Smuggler's stuff doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I also think that the crew in general, especially she and Angelica, have more ways of spending stones than most crews. I think most of them are relatively equivalent. There's definitely a couple where it's like, I'm going to save some for that. But Smuggler herself adds more to the crew. So I'm glad to see that they're doing that for the version that can make more of them. And one of hers is, if it was on anybody else, you'd say this is straight up bad.
Right.
The I'm going to spend stones at a 1-for-1 to heal. And I'm wondering how much of that is they're allowing her to make more because of that. And at that point, okay, do we just remove both of those things and kind of put them in the same thing? I love the thematicism of it.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, it could be a problem.
Yeah. I do think that is an interesting sticking point that I don't know that beta is going to resolve, because we gotta do this before Gen Con. We are all on a deadline. But there will be time after that, because the game is officially releasing, but the whole thing's not going to be out, and we have an app, and they have drive-through cards, and so there's ample opportunity to continue to refine this, and then we'll have all the errata periods and GG1, and there's a lot of things that I see that are just tiny little points of remaining friction that I think can and hopefully should be ironed out as the game progresses. And I'm from the first couple weeks of beta, I'm thrilled to see mature Malifaux 4th edition. Do you feel the same way?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I am a child yearning for the mines in the I'm looking forward to playing games where I'm not taking notes. I'm having a good time taking notes. But I can tell just because of the length of time it is taking to play a game with a crew I've seen once that has had updates in the last week or two while writing notes. I'm like, if you let me sit on this for 2 weeks with no changes and not having changed notes, this is a 2-hour game at most.
Yeah. A lot, like I said, a lot of that is going to be internalization. Once I get the hang of how to do this, and I don't have to read the rulebook, and I don't have to take notes, and one of the games I was teaching my girlfriend how to play, so I was just I'm not doing we're gonna play, but I'm not gonna write a battle report. Because the battle report would be, I was teaching my opponent how to play while we were playing. And that was the journalist performer game.
Wow.
Yeah, no, just the level of thematicism most crews have that are informing how they work. They already did that well in 3rd ed, and then they added in the improved scoring this time while simplifying the theme mechanics on most everything. Yes, I yearn for just let's play and not notes.
After that game, I was I think I just want to play some for fun. I wish I had more time to both play and playtest, because I enjoy playtesting. Imagine that, a game designer enjoys playtesting.
No way.
Hang on. I thought because of everything James Workshop has ever said, that's not a thing.
No, it's not.
Game designers hate testing. They just want to throw stuff out.
They do, it's true. They hate testing their own games, and they hate testing other people's games. Never listen to James Workshop.
No.
Fair.
He doesn't have your best interests at heart.
Oh, man.
It's almost 4 o'clock for me. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask me, or anything else we want to talk about? I could do this for the rest of the night, but I do have other things I have to do today.
Yeah, same.
I think we've got enough material for an episode.
Yeah, I agree. I would say one final thing.
Yeah.
We want to see everybody who's listening to this at Good Things Happen.
Yeah. I will
in St. Louis, right across the river from St. Louis.
Yeah.
June 27th through 29th. There will be links in the show notes and probably wherever we post this. If you can't make it, we're sorry, and we want to see you next year. But you can still post money as donations. You can do it as, hey, I want all this money so Monica can use it specifically against Roman, or vice versa, or etc.
Yeah, you might want to... the Cutthroat is a different game type where you can purchase advantages or disadvantages for your opponent. We're not talking about just being able to bribe people during a normal tournament. There is
Doug
a specific...
might not be, but I am.
We
But yes, donate, please. If you want to help someone out with the cutthroats or put the money against them so they have a harder time, you can do that. And we have some nice stretch goals that we're trying to achieve and get as many done before we actually have the event. We've already achieved Roman having to play Rezzers all weekend.
Thank you all, I hate you.
Yep, and after a couple $100 more, Monica has promised to cosplay as Sonya Crid whilst playing Arcanist.
I'm coming in costume as Sonya no matter what. Unless the tailoring on the jacket it doesn't happen before then, but I'm going to try to make sure that does happen.
Okay.
So if you are a Sonya fucker, you can donate money, and if you are a Sonya hater, you can donate money.
Yeah, it is perfectly reasonable and in fact suggested in some cases to say this money is going towards whoever is playing Sonya all day.
Yes, you can do that. Please. Much like Roman, please make me play Arcanists. Please make me play a faction I never play. And I don't know, for an extra $1, I'll be mean to you in character.
There you go, perfect. Because no matter what, all the money goes towards punching kids' cancer in the face.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer.
It's really for a good cause. I spread a link around in a bunch of places. Some of my other gaming groups who do not know why you would pay extra money to screw over Sonya, but but if that speaks to you, I'm happy to fall on that sword. Please sabotage me for money. I think that's funny. I'm happy to be a heel. Like, happy to be a heel. Please donate money to screw me over. Make me have to play Arcanist. If someone has a Damien crew, I feel like that would be extra deliciously ironic.
Oh, God.
How fast can I paint that up is the question.
So yeah, please do that.
I can go grab a box, Roman, and you can go grab a box, and we'll have the keyword done, and then we can put it in the prize pool.
There you go.
I'm willing to do that if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that. I have some Rezzers I need to paint before that.
All right, we'll discuss it later.
I have a translucent jackdaw crew I could bring with me if you want to play him.
Oh, I absolutely don't want to play him.
I
like my opponent to have a good time.
I liked playing him in Outcast in 2nd Edition quite a lot, but thus having it. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good, so I'll jump back in and actually be the host for another 30 seconds.
Okay.
But this is actually a lot of fun, and it's nice to not have to run things for once. I was actually participating and laughing along, but I didn't have a lot of input because the only game design I really have under my belt is silly put, like, baby oil on a T-Rex bullshittery. But thank you, both of you, for coming on the show. Thank you, Monica, for running things.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And being an actual professional.
Yeah.
And thank you, Roman, for being a lot better at, like, supportive questions to keep Monica talking. I was sitting here picking my nails.
Gone off for like an hour by myself, but I like having a conversation too.
Yeah. I know how the ADHD brain will just keep going, and you just need to kind of poke it in one direction or the other. And as one who does that, I appreciate having someone to do that for me occasionally. So happy I could help.
I'm so looking forward to seeing you all at the end of June.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah.
All right. So, crap. What's the send off? Right. God, it's been forever. Feels like it's been forever. Anyways, we have been Steve and our Scoundrels, and as we always say, fun is always king. Enjoy your games of 4th edition.
Post feedback so the devs can work on it.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Then be nice.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Songs used in this production are Villainous Treachery and 5-Card Shuffle. All music is created by Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.